Athlete Builder back at it. Jim Beebe and Anthony Castore today. Some of my rules when I'm having a podcast and I have a guest on, like an attorney in Crossfire or a litigator, I usually ask questions where I typically know the answers or have some idea. That's not today, unfortunately. So it's a little nerd fest, which I like. And our six things: three for the head, three for the body. One is knowledge for the head, and then recovery for the body is another thing. So two of the six are going to be addressed really well today. Subject matter expert and self-proclaimed nerd, which I identify with. We got Anthony on. Who's this episode going to be for today? It's for the dad bods and mom bods that want to be healthier. It's for the student athletes that are playing in high school and college, but they want to do things legally with their supplements. We're talking peptides today. We're talking collagen. What are some things that people can do to heal and get back in the game better? Because one of the things I always say, it's not how hard can you train, it's how hard can you train, recover, and train hard again. Sustainability is always going to be key, just like James Clear's Atomic Habits when he talks about that. So one of the things is recovery, and we have to know these things. So lock in. Should be a good show. We got Anthony in, 30-year coach, strength coach. Shout out Chad Coy, one of my guys, strongman, Parisi's master coach. We had Chad on episode, what was that, 48? He hooked us up, and he's been helping me out, meeting more folks. So thanks to Chad, we got Anthony in, and he was Anthony's first coach, which we'll get into. Shout out to Lexi Yu. You guys don't know this. She's my nurse practitioner, Northside, Indianapolis. And I was just looking through Anthony's history, and he was just on the Better You, that's YOO podcast with her. She has her own podcast. She does hormone replacement therapy and a bunch of other things. So my wife and I, we go and see her. So shout out Lexi, and then shout out my favorite supplement, Jocko Fuel. Been using them and benefiting from them. So Anthony, what can I tell you about Anthony? He's trained athletes 30 years, pros, executives, strength coach. Just people want to be well-rounded. He's worked with pros in 5 different sports. He's trained at Westside Barbell for a couple of years. He's the only non-doctor who's subject matter expert and fellow with SSRP. What is that? The Seeds Scientific Research and Performance Organization. He's spoken at Swiss Conference, NASM, the Peptide World Congress. So we're blessed with another smart guy here today who likes to lift, and we're going to try to get better here for a little bit. Anthony, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So I know you're out in Ohio, so go Buckeyes, and congrats to those my home state's national champs. But when I saw your bio here, you're just barely 100 pounds when you go to see Chad. 115, 120 pounds. And Chad's a big guy, strong, is a pro strongman. And he trains everybody, but you walk in and completely just turned your life around, right? You said he was your first trainer. Tell me about that. Let's just lead right into Chad Cohen, how that relationship started.
Absolutely. So great story. I can't say enough good things about Chad. I wouldn't be where I am today without him. And like you said, I graduated high school. I was like a buck 17 dripping wet.
Mm.
And we had moved to Ohio my senior year of high school. I went back to Purdue for my freshman year of college. And girl I was dating, she was 118 pounds. So the running joke with us was, fight breaks out. Guess who's jumping in front? It's going to be her. And I was like, all right, I think she's telling me I should probably start working out. So I went into Dr. Thayer's nutrition store. Dr. Thayer was a chiropractor, and Chad was working there. And I mean, even in college, the guy's enormous. And started talking to him about, I want to put on some size and work out. And he agreed to train me. So I go in there first day, and I mean, he's pretty intimidating if you don't know him, even if you know him. And I was just scared to death. And um, he gets me in there, and it was full body workout, one set to failure on everything. He really took me under his wing. Like, I would literally go to his apartment, and he'd make a mixing bowl full of oatmeal, cherry pie filling, and egg whites. I eat it, pass out in a food coma, wake up 2 hours later, eat again. But crazy thing is, I mean, it worked. I went from 117 up to 185, lost 2% body fat from about 15% down to about 12.9, and strength just shot through the roof, and I was hooked. I mean, I've always had a really scientific mind, wondering, well, how's this work? Or what if this? And training is the thing that kind of put it all together for me. You're out there, you're doing something, you get return on the investment. And I couldn't have had a better mentor. So I'm just so grateful to Chad and blessed I had the opportunity to work with him. And man, that guy knows training.
He does. You see him, and everyone immediately thinks because he's so big and strong that he's just about strength. But I'd say he's probably better at coaching speed and getting people faster, and then handling just anyone who wants to be well rounded. His perspective on things. Um, he's just he's just because he likes to be big and strong, he doesn't put that on anybody else. And
Yeah.
he's great at meeting the athlete where the athlete is, which is an absolute must. If you can't do that and you're pushing your own agenda all the time, that's nothing but friction. You got to meet the athlete where they are and then inch them along from there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what was that like early on? Like you said, to put on all that weight. Like how long did that take? Was it 6 weeks, 6 months? Was it two
Six
years?
months.
Six
Yeah, it
months.
was
That's a ton of weight that
ton of
quickly.
weight. Yeah. And the amazing thing, as I mentioned, I lost 2% body fat in that process. I was just growing like a weed, 100% natural. And it was just, I was probably a little underweight a lot underweight. Did a little bit of wrestling in high school and um, just never really thought about food or training, casual bench here and there. And workouts for wrestling, and I played some soccer, that kind of thing, but never really any formal training. So when Chad took me under his wing, it was the whole each set, each exercise, we're giving everything we got here,
Sure.
and we're going to really go to the limit on everything. And then you're going to have a day where you're really going to recover. And we were tracking my weight. We were making sure that I was doing stuff. We were looking at my food intake and, am I getting fat or am I putting on muscle? And so I think it was just kind of a perfect situation where we're measuring the progress we're making. I couldn't have had a better mentor, motivator. And I mean, Chad standing behind you when you're attempting a heavy squat or heavy bench or whatever, like you got all the confidence in the world that that bar is not going to drop.
True. He would be able to move all the weight himself. So
Yeah.
you're completely safe there.
Yeah.
So you walk in, and as an athlete, man, it's just the perfect storm because here's someone with a big why, and he's completely coachable, right? So teammates is one of the other components in the head. So, and you talk about mentors or coaches, that's what we're doing here. We're trying to meet the athlete where they are and push them along. And when you get an athlete that comes along and they're so coachable like you were, man, it is so easy to make progress. And your background is soccer and wrestling, big cardio burning sports. Your metabolism is getting crushed all the time because it's so intense. So you're so thin and lean. So if you start actually making any kind of changes, you just start touching a bar, start adding just a little bit of protein, you're going to see big gains. And that first few years of any new athlete that just starts that, it's so fun because every day is a new personal record, right?
Yeah.
Super fun. Um, Now you've also been a coach for a long time, and you've seen the opposite,
Uh-huh.
where the coach isn't as helpful, or the athlete isn't as coachable, or they're not following the plan. And you're talking about already measuring things, measuring your weight and your food and all that. And Ohio State talks about if they do anything at all, they measure it. They quantify and measure everything because you improve what you measure. Um, how did that keep going? So you're 6 months in. Like, how long was the relationship there? How long did you keep going? And then what happened? Why'd you stop? And what happened next? Is essentially
So the whole time I was at Purdue, worked out with Chad and friends, and we've stayed in touch since then. Um, the my I was having too much fun my freshman year of college, like a lot of people do,
sure. Me too.
and
Me too.
easy to do. And my parents kind of pulled the rug out and were like, "I think you need to come back home, focus on your academics." So moved back to Ohio with my parents after that freshman year. But at that point, I'd been working out with Chad for about a year, and I had friends coming up and asking me, man, what are you doing? Like you're putting on all this weight, and it presented the opportunity to train people. I never even thought like you could actually get paid for this, but what was cool was Chad was like, he gave me a great way of thinking about it because I just love helping people. And, sometimes you almost feel guilty charging people, but it's how we put a roof over our head. And he was like, well, think about it like this. If you have people that want to pay you to train them, they're going to pay somebody, and you've got the knowledge, and you can use that money so you can continue to invest in your education, your training, and be a
Hmm.
better service to them, which is exactly what I did. The kind of the motivation for transitioning into training, being a coach, was really just to fund my education. And when I've always loved learning and understanding the why behind training, and just having the experience of working with some incredible coaches out there. So it's like, you know, good way to pay for it is pass that knowledge on to other people, pay it forward, and
Sure.
continue to learn and be a better service to them.
That's the idea by what we're doing here alone. The information I bring on these guests, it's what do you know? And if I can take that out and shove it back out to the world and get them better, that is 100%, the goal, making an impact mentally and physically. Um, all right. So did you get a college degree in what we're doing? Or, what happened next? How did you start getting smarter? Where did you invest your time and money to get smarter in what you're doing now?
So I figured out in college, well, kind of a funny story. I've always had a high aptitude for anything involving logic, analytics, or science,
Hmm.
but I'm mildly dyslexic and I've got the weakest stomach of anybody I know. So not really a good fit for med school, but that was the thought,
Sure.
going to college, I've got the brain for it, why not be a doctor? But quickly found out that wasn't going to work.
Mm,
So I took some classes when I moved back home with my parents. And it was just the whole like sitting in a classroom. It was moving at a speed that was just, for lack of a better way to put it, kind of boring to me. So I was still into bodybuilding. So with all my science courses, like as I was learning about cells, I contextualized it. How does this tie into bodybuilding? And that kind of got me reading some journals and digging for some really obscure compounds and looking at the whole supplementation side of training. And I was sort of figuring out that like there's really a whole side to training that involves like the science of it, and that was kind of a space that I enjoyed being in. And with the learning, it was like I learn really well through conversation. Like I like if I talk to people or if I'm out there doing something. um I'm a fast learner, but if I have to read something because of the mild dyslexia, my eyes get tired pretty fast. So um, I've got my mom to thank for this, kind of a funny and really lovely story. My mom loved my passion I had for learning and training, and how all in I was on this. And Dr. Serrano, who's a well-known doctor, works with a lot of athletes, was in Ohio, so were we. So my mom reached out to him. He wasn't taking any new patients, and she literally got on the phone and said, my son's read literally everything that you published, and he is uh, just really, really wanting to learn from you. And he's like, oh, I'm not really taking new patients. And she's like, your time's valuable. If you can just make an hour for him, let him come in with some questions. I'll pay whatever it costs for the hour, but I'd just love for him to be able to talk to you, and maybe you could give him some direction as to where he could go with what he's doing. So he agreed, went in there. I had a stack of questions. I mean, ridiculous. Poor guy. I don't think he saw that one coming from a mile away. I had so many questions that after the hour, he said, I'm not really taking new patients, but um, I'll take you on as a patient. Come back in. He gave me a list of stuff to do. He's like, come back in 6 months and we'll have a follow up and bring some questions. Well, I had about three times as many questions, and I did everything he told me to do and more. And at that point, well, there were a couple of those, and then finally he was just like, "Look, it's going to be easier if you just follow me around on Tuesdays, and you can learn about medicine." Um, you can help me out by writing some diet and training for my patients and save me some time. So it was just another great opportunity to share something I'd learned, help him out, and at the same time learn more.
Oh man. So you basically, you're learning like every other student, and then you have this self-created internship of your own um, knowledge being with the journals and the other writings. And then you actually go out and just create one from scratch with the doctor, and you have this mentor again, just like Chad, taking you under his wing and pumping all that information into you. What a gift! What a gift to have someone pour into you like that. Man, I hope he gets a Christmas card.
Absolutely, every year.
Right. Um, so peptides, branched chain amino acids, proteins. Give us the basics, how that works, and how they're going to benefit our athletes.
Yeah. So peptides are a really hot topic these days, and I think we're headed in a good direction that people really want to create a healthcare system where people can actually get healthy. Peptides are going to be a part of that. And when we think about peptides, it's like, what are these things? I tell people we've probably all heard of amino acids.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine you've got two amino acids standing next to each other, and uh, we'll say it's a boy and a girl on a first date, and they're like, all right, so they hold hands, bond. And as soon as you have that bond, peptide bond, essentially two or more amino acids joined together becomes a peptide. Um, and up to 50 amino acids. So I don't know what we'd really call that, but 50 people holding hands. Um,
A good time,
yeah, big party.
right?
So that's kind of the standard definition of a peptide, 50 amino acids or less. Now, some peptides that people are probably already familiar with, but might not have realized they were peptides. When we think about like insulin for diabetics,
Mm-hmm.
it's more than 50 amino acids, but it's a chain of amino acids, which creates a peptide. Or growth hormone is 191 amino acids, so that's a polypeptide. Um, so a peptide can be a hormone, but a hormone doesn't have to be a peptide.
Gotcha.
Um, Now, when we think about shorter chains of peptides, so like some people might have heard of bioregulators, and easy way to describe those is I was a short kid growing up, so this will make sense. We're playing hide and seek. Short guy can always find a good place to hide. You get into all those little spaces. Well, bioregulators are kind of the same thing, whereas a peptide would signal more on the surface of a cell. It can't really squeeze in those nooks and crannies. A little bioregulator can kind of sneak in there on the DNA and make sure everything's lined up just right, and make some epigenetic changes. So, kind of to recap, if something's 50 amino acids or less, that's going to be a peptide. It's going to send a signal to the cell telling it what to do, and that cell's going to do it and tell other cells what to do. If it's four amino acids or less, it's going to be a bioregulator. It's going to kind of sneak in there on the DNA, and it's going to make sure everything's kind of lined up right. So we got that really good uh, message coming from the DNA, and we're photocopying the right page.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So putting that knowledge to use and applying it, what are some peptides that the public can use, and what's some of the peptides that the public can use, especially if and only if um, they pass WADA or NCAA or pro standards, meaning not all peptides are over the counter, not all peptides are approved for sports, but some are and some are not. So, can you just describe the difference between the two and how people are applying both?
Sure, yeah. So with college and pro sports, each sport is going to have its own list kind of banned substances. For instance, in hockey right now, NHL, they can use BPC 157, which sounds like alphabet soup, but we call it the Wolverine peptide. It's fantastic for healing, and it's really like a Swiss Army knife. It does so many different things. So this single peptide, well, remember, it just signals to the cell. Some of the things it tells the cell to do is decrease the amount of inflammation in our body. So Like as we get older, sometimes our joints start to hurt and we get that inflammation.
Hmm.
BPC 157 can kind of turn down the dial on that. Um, the other thing it's going to do is it increases production of nitric oxide. So that's going to be great for like our endothelial cells, like our heart, our brain. Um, it also increases the density of growth hormone receptors. So when we think about a receptor, that's like a parking space for a car being like growth hormone. And in order for that car to work, it's got to have a parking space, or I should say, a charging station rather.
Hmm.
Um, and um, when we have more of those charging stations, it's like, even if there's a bunch of cars there that day, you're still going to be able to find one. So you're still going to be able to get more out of your natural growth hormone. Um, so that's kind of one example. Now, in the context of injury, um, it's really kind of interesting. We get like a knee injury or a shoulder injury, and we talk about as we get older, like our joints are wearing down. But what people don't usually think about is it's actually an insult to our immune system that's occurring. When we get that acute injury, we'll just say like a knee injury. Um, let's say you tore an ACL. What's going to happen during that tear is a little fragment of cartilage is going to kind of splinter off and it's going to end up in the bloodstream. And when it's in the bloodstream, what happens is the body thinks it's an antigen, a foreign substance. It doesn't really know what it is. So it dials up the immune system, all hands on deck. We don't know what's floating around, but we're sure the heck going to create a lot of inflammation so that we're prepared. And um, then what happens is, as we're trying to repair, it's almost like our body's allergic to the collagen that makes up 40% of the protein in our body. So it's rejecting that. And that's why cartilage, they say you can't regrow cartilage because we lose immune tolerance. But a really clever workaround, and this is perfectly legal in any sport, if you use like a type 2 collagen. I like the chicken collagen, like a native collagen. So it's going to be a complete type 2 chicken collagen. Just take a couple capsules, 4 capsules in the morning, 4 capsules with dinner. What you're going to do, it's like you're slowly starting to expose your body to this collagen again, get it used to it, realize like, wait a minute, I don't have to react to this every time it's coming around. And then it's going to start kind of dialing down that immune system so that when collagen's available to repair the broken cartilage, it'll start reassembling it instead of attacking it. So and then that's kind of where the peptides come in. When we think about now, we've got the raw materials that we can drop off to repair this cartilage. Now what we got to do is we got to turn off the things that are saying inflammation, and we've got to stimulate the things that are saying repair. And that's where things like this BPC 157 that I mentioned just a moment ago works synergistically with like a thymosin beta 4. And thymosin beta 4, again, I know it sounds like alphabet soup, but um, if we think about that word, thymosin sounds a little bit like thymus gland. And that's exactly where it comes from. It would come from the thymus gland. And what thymosin beta 4 does is when we have these injuries, it creates, we get like senescent cells. And senescent cells are like um, those old zombie cells that kind of hang around and suck up energy, but we wish we could clear them out. Um, almost like I used to bounce at bars, so it's like those people that linger around at 2:45 a.m. and you're like, "We're closed, go home," and they're still sitting there. Yep,
Hmm. Yep.
senescent cells.
All right.
Um, so thymosin beta 4 is a senomodulator, and what that means is it does a really good job of spotting the cells we want to get out of there, but keeping the ones that are still like maybe they had a few too much to drink, but they're pretty good guys. They'll be fine the next day, so they can stay. And other thing it does is it repairs actin filaments. So when we think about like our muscle fibers and those actin bridges, it actually repairs those. And the other thing it does, and this is with the collagen, when we're repairing things and we're kind of laying down that cartilage or whatever, we want that collagen to be in straight lines, um, instead of kind of haphazardly slapped on there. And thymosin beta 4 helps to align collagen. It also signals the proliferation of uh, cells to come over. They can kind of morph into what we need them to. So, and reduces inflammation. So just a ton of really great benefits when you combine that BPC, thymosin beta 4, type 2 collagen. And then the other thing that we like to put in there too, and they did some studies on this down in Australia, and to the best of my knowledge, it's not banned in any sport organization, although honestly, I haven't checked the list for about 6 months, so double check, but it's called pentasin polysulfate. Pentasin polysulfate's not a peptide. It is closer to a carbohydrate than it is a protein. It comes from the cell walls of plants. It's and it has the ability to regenerate cartilage. It works as a prebiotic in our gut, like it's something that the good bacteria like to feed on. Um, Reduces inflammation throughout the body. It also has some antiviral benefits. I mean, my opinion, they should put this stuff in the drinking water.
Mm,
But yeah, just kind of to recap, uh, once we recreate immune tolerance with the collagen, and then we put in the right signals with the peptides, and then we have something that actually stimulates like um, that cartilage to regenerate, like the pentasin, and even like GLP-1. Everybody thinks about these like Wegovy, Ozempic, Zepbound for weight loss, but they increase osteoblasts and bone growth. So that's another thing that can kind of help um, heal that injury a little faster.
gotcha. So for anyone that doesn't get all everything you just said, I'm gonna try to spit it back to you, and you tell me what I'm saying incorrectly. All right. So there's collagen, right, and specifically a type 2. You want people taking that. It's a form of protein, right?
Hmm.
From there, you add two other substances: BP 157 and thymosin beta 4.
BPC 157 and thymosin beta 4. Hmm.
Okay, so you have your collagen, and then you have your BPC and your thymosin. So those are the three things you're taking. And after a while taking that, you add into the pentasin, which you said should be in all the drinking water. So they're helping people recover. They're taking the inflammation down in the cells. They're getting rid of the cells, like when you're bouncing at the bar. So the cells that you don't want, they're getting rid of those. The cells you do want, they're keeping those, and they're making them healthier so they can regenerate because they weren't able to do that before. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Mic drop.
Mic drop. All right. So
Yep.
if you don't understand anything he just said or what I said, there's four things to take: type 2 collagen, then BPC 157, and then thymosin beta 4. And the fourth thing is pentasin polysulfate.
Yep.
All
Perfect.
all right. So that's probably the deepest nerd stuff we've had on in a while, which is helpful. But at least I know what to do. Now, all these things, they're not banned by the NCAA. They're not banned by anything else. They're all just natural things that occur that you can go and get prescriptions for or over the counter, right?
So on the peptides, actually, that's a good thing to bring up. Do check with your uh, individual sport to make sure they're not on a ban list. In terms of sourcing them, and this is really important, there's a lot of like research chemical places out there where you can just go on and buy them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the problem is those aren't really regulated, and you could be injecting something that's like maybe 90% pure and full of metals and toxins. So it's a really good idea to link up with a qualified physician, um, and they'll be able to call these into a compounding pharmacy for you. And then, it's going to be a clean product. It's going to do what it's supposed to, and you're getting what you think you're getting.
Gotcha. So if you're local and I use Lexi U,
She's fantastic.
she's fantastic at that. So we have athletes that go to her already for other things. but she's going to be a knowledgeable, credible source where anyone, at least here within a reasonable travel distance, can come to her. She's on the north side of Indianapolis, and she can meet with you and help decipher where to go next, and then she can call in the scripts, have the compounds made. You go pick them up and go from there.
And in fact, the best compounding pharmacy in the country is right there in Indianapolis area, the Pure Pharmacy. They're fantastic. I can't say enough good things about them.
Okay, I'm writing this down to Pure Pharmacy. All right.
The other thing, really low hanging fruit, and this is for it's 100% legal anywhere. And whether you're a mom, a dad, an athlete, just want to live a better quality life, have better energy, and if you are taking peptides, have them work better.
Okay.
Um, the simplest thing you can do, and I feel like this is foundational, is hydration. And the funniest thing is, when we talk about hydration, um, a lot of people are going to say, well, I drink a lot of water and I put minerals and electrolytes in there, and that's all great. But when we're talking about hydration, like in terms of like improving performance, in terms of optimizing um, cellular health and signaling. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking about very specifically cell volume. A really easy way to explain this. I'm sure you and all your listeners have had the experience of taking creatine before, right?
A lot of them have, yeah, and me
Uh,
included. Me included for sure. Yeah.
so remember like the first time you take creatine, how you kind of get like that, they call it a cell swelling effect and feel great. I mean, you feel like you just worked out. Everything feels nice and full.
Yes.
So the reason that happens, creatine is a neutral osmolyte, um, and when we take those neutral osmolytes, and the product I like, it's called iCell water. And I'll kind of explain what a neutral osmolyte is too, so it's a little bit easier to digest. But this creates like this cell swelling effect, and the reason that's important is because when a cell has volume, then bless you. Then it's going to be polarized. And when a cell is polarized, what that means is the analogy I like to use. If you're driving down the freeway and you see those kind of floppy things on the side with their arms going everywhere, we'll
Mm-hmm.
call that a dehydrated cell.
Okay.
And let's just pretend that I'm going to give you $1,000 if you stand 20 yards away and you can hit the tip of the finger with the next 20 footballs that you throw.
Mm.
That's a moving target. I might be out a couple thousand, but you're probably going to miss a few of those.
Right.
Um, Now, if that same floppy thing was all full of air, antennas up in the air, we'll call that a polarized cell. I make that same bet with you. I'm going to be out $20,000. You're going to hit it every time.
Right.
And the same is true like with our cells. When they're polarized, they've got optimal cell volume, as full of water as they can be, they're going to take in electrolytes better. They're going to do all their processes better. They're going to send and receive signals better. And that's going to manifest with things like hormones, peptides, you name it, because those receptors are on the outside of the cell where those floppy arms would be. So
Gotcha.
really important that we're staying hydrated with those neutral osmolytes.
How do you? What are some easy ways for people to know if they're hydrated or not?
The really probably the best way is going to be if you have access to an in-body.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to show you like your uh, how much body water you have and how it's compartmentalized.
Okay.
I use a in-body 970 with my clients. Um, Alternatively,
If
and it's not really
we have an in body, what's the numbers you're looking for then?
in terms of percentage. Let me pull up. Do you have the 970?
I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head.
Um, so on there, trying to pull up one of the things so I can kind of run down it and give a visual to people. Okay, so when we look on here, it's going to say intracellular water versus extracellular water. And um, on an in-body, what we want to see is at least 70% of the water is intracellular. Um, I like people to stay 75 to 80% Mine's 80.7 for anybody that's interested. Um, and real simple way to think about that and why that's relevant is if most of that water, so 70% or more, is, inside that cell, and we've got all this water out here, that means there's only a little bit between the cell and the skin, and that cell is really full, so that's what's occupying the space, and cell is polarized.
All right. So someone doesn't have an in body, or they're not getting scanned every day. You look at basically your urine then and see how light the color is, and when you know you are at 70, check your urine. So every time you're close to that same lightness and color, that light lemonade, and it says, all right, well that's pretty typical for when I'm cranked up on my water at 70+%. If I maintain that and check that all the time, that's my good day-to-day barometer. What do you think about that?
It's not bad. The other thing you could do is like if you push down on your skin,
Yep.
like really hard, and then you see how long it takes for the thumbprint to go away.
Okay.
Um, the better hydrated you are, that space is going to fill up with water faster.
Okay.
So you should get color back a little bit faster. Um, those things are not bad, but they're not really
Accurate.
exact.
Sure.
Um, what I usually the directions I give people or kind of the fail-safe is if you just do like the ISO water or the formula basically is 5 grams of creatine, 4 grams of alanine, 4 grams of glutamine, 3 grams of glycine, and 3 grams of leucine. Um, you mix that in 67 ounces of water and just sip it throughout the day. You don't drink it like you'd normally drink water. You just sip it, and then do your normal water intake. You're going to be fine.
Gotcha. And a lot of those creatine supplements, they'll have those other components in it as well. Sometimes you have to buy them separately. Sometimes you don't. But a lot of times they'll have it in it as well. Or sometimes if you have like just some other, hydration drinks, right? They'll have some of those components in it as well, right?
The only thing to watch with those, you're correct, they will, but if you think about it like a scale, and when we've got just the right blend in there, we've got that neutral osmolality, and then when like other things are added in, like caffeine or things that might have a different osmolality to them, it can kind of change how that solution's going to react in us. So, Dr. Seeds actually is the one that did all the research on this, and all the research came from how to optimally rehydrate our liver cells because those are the hardest ones to rehydrate. Um, so, if we really kind of um, just you can either buy the ingredients separate or do like an ISO water
Mhm.
and sip on it, then you'll be checking all the boxes.
5 grams creatine, 4 grams alanine. Then what was next?
4 grams of glutamine,
Yep.
3 grams of glycine, and 3 grams of leucine.
Gotcha. I'm 250 pounds. Rough number on ounces of water per day. If I'm working out an hour a day, some of it's conditioning, some of it's lifting.
I do 0.76 times body weight, and then 12 ounces of water hour before the workout. And then if you weigh yourself after the workout, for every pound of water you lose,
Mm-hmm.
um, another 12 ounces of water or 16 ounces of water.
Gotcha. So I'm swimming more and more lately because I have this event in August, and the pool. It's not that cold, unfortunately. They keep it really warm because there's a lot of older folks in the pool, and so they'll have it cranked up. Man, I'm talking 86, 88.
Ooh, that's like bathwater.
Yeah, it's a god awful number to swim in.
Yeah.
If it's closer to 80, it's better 78. However, if I'm swimming, 14, 15, 1600 meters, and it takes me about 45 minutes. I'll get out and reweigh myself, and I'm 2.5 pounds down, and it's not even that cold. as I started doing open water swims when it's colder and you're just leaking heat, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I'm gonna have to shovel in a bunch of more water just to get back to neutral, right?
The if you're doing like the 0.76 times your body weight,
Mm-hmm.
and then throughout the day you have that 67 ounces with that mixture in there, and you're sipping it, you should be good.
Gotcha. Now I'm sitting on the deck at night and I'm drinking my bourbon and I'm using this little 67 ounces as my chaser. Probably not having the same desired effect.
It might.
but,
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
hope and pray, right?
Yeah.
All right. Um, you've worked with athletes. They've all had setbacks too at some point, right? No one gets to the
Hmm.
top without being broken along the way in some way, shape, or form. And working with them, one of the things you pointed out was you want to view setbacks as opportunities. Give us an example of that and how it's worked out for you guys.
Yeah, I think every situation you encounter, um, you have the opportunity to look at that and think the glass is half empty, half full.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, let's say you break your leg, for example. If you break your leg, most people's default is going to be like, "Oh, I broke my leg, season's over." Or you could look at it like, bone's going to is going to heal stronger. The
Mm.
time that I'm out, I can learn about how to heal as fast as possible so that I can help a teammate. Or if I find myself in a situation where I got injured again, I've got the tools to heal faster. Um, maybe this is God's way of telling me to pump the brakes a little bit on my training,
Sure.
and maybe I needed the recovery. It gives me the opportunity to focus on another area of life. So every situation, I guess, instead of looking at it like this is something bad, there's always going to be a lesson, a blessing, and an opportunity. And you always have to remember life happens for you, it doesn't happen to you. And when you embrace that mindset that everything is happening for exactly the way it's supposed to, for exactly the right reason, and it's a gift, it's really going to change everything. And what I think is particularly interesting, and there's no way to really quantify it, but in my own experience and the people I've worked with, mindset has so much to do with like how fast we heal, how we come back. And I think as they start to explore quantum biology and physics a little bit more, we're going to find that there really is something to our thoughts directing uh, biological processes, and just kind of keeping that mindset um, and always looking at the glass as half full is, at the very least, I mean, you're going to have a better day. And if science catches up someday, we might find out that, like, all the while we were adding years to our lives, accelerating our healing and health.
And I couldn't agree with you more. You say a bunch of things that we always say here. And, when you have this, so many people look at event and they make it an equation. Event equals outcome. And it's not true, right? Event plus reaction equals the outcome. So in my book and others, like, I talk about injury being a gift. And people are like, oh man, fuck off, Jim, right? But we had Shani Lipscomb on. She's a pro volleyball player. She missed an entire year, tore her ACL, but her legs and lower body was weak. She deserved the ACL tear almost. She's doing so much as a volleyball player that the pounding was a given. It was part of the equation, and her body's broke. She spends a year and gets so much stronger. Her vertical goes up, and she goes from being a college athlete to being a pro athlete playing for one of her countries. Right, so
There you go.
you look at it like that, and it's like, okay, great. The hard part also is that when you're in the middle of it, and I've been through this too. I had injuries in my sport; I couldn't play anymore. You're looking at that, and you're like, well, shit, I could have been this. I was this, and it's always a comparison thing. If you wake up every day and you have these constraints, everyone has constraints, right? And you're just doing your best in the six things that we talk about, or whatever things are important to you. You do those as best you can. You go to bed like, what else is there? Okay, I'm doing the best I can. I'm missing a leg, but I'm doing the best I can, right? I'm doing the best I can, but I'm not missing a leg, but I got hurt. All right, I'm still doing the best I can. That's when you're going to be content with where you're at. When you're always woulda, coulda, shoulda, that's nothing but pain. The last component is All right, you're playing a sport. You're the starter. And let's say, on a score out of 100, you're trying to be the best version of yourself, which you're never going to be, but you're working towards it. And let's say 100 is the best. And you score out at 88, right? Well, you get hurt, and someone else elevates. They were already behind you, so they're below 88, but they're now down. They're now number one. They are the starter, and you're upset, like, oh, I lost my spot. Why do I want to help that person? Why do I want to help that person take my role and do better right now? Because I have to beat that person on the way back. All right. Well, that's all true. And so most people, me included, would be like, man, I'm not helping that guy. He can figure out himself, and I hope he falls on his face. That way I can get back. Right? Real selfishly motivated, just all about yourself. And I've done that. But what if you do this? You take the guy that's below you, say he's an 82, and you get him to surpass you, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90. 90 is the score. Now he's a 90% player. But you start doing all the things you learned while you're down, and you start elevating every other area. Like, your goal that year wasn't just to be an 88. Your goal was to be all conference or all state or all county or all American or all pro. Your sights were already higher than that score. Now you have someone to chase. Now you have the things you can do on the side to help build you up. So when you come back, you work yourself way back to a higher number because you now set it up that way. You have a teammate that you can chase. You've done all the intrinsic things on the side, and now you elevated because you attacked and you pushed. You won the day every day on the way up while you're still hurt. Now you're even higher. So you were going to be an all-conference person anyways, you said. Well, now you're playing at that level because you made it that way. That was your response to that event. So the outcome is way, way different. What do you get? People get really messed up on is that they start looking at the other guy who's playing and they don't do those things because it's hard. It's hard to do all that shit. It's hard to have that uncertainty. It's hard, right? But we're asking people to do hard things because you're only here once, so do it. So they start doing these things. Then the team is way better. Now you guys have got a better shot at winning, right? So that's the hard part about the setbacks. And I think if you look at it that way, you're really going to optimize yourself for going forward because you're not going to have just one setback in your life. You're going to have tons.
Yeah, I think that's a great perspective. I also stress to people it's really important. Always look at things not from a scarcity mindset. It's like I don't know if you're familiar with the red ocean, blue ocean concept. And the concept is red ocean, there's these, fish swimming around and they're all meat eaters, so they're all eating each other. Nobody gets ahead, everybody dies. Blue ocean, these same fish are swimming around, but they realize like just because these fish are eating doesn't mean, there's not enough food for us. There's enough food for everybody. So they discover new food, they swim together, and the ecosystem generates more food for everybody. So now everybody's eating more, everybody's coexisting. So it's in people terms, not fish. Um, it really comes down to looking at everything as an opportunity as and coming at it from a place of realizing everybody's trying to do the best they can. If I help them, I'm being a good teacher. I'm going to learn something in the process and help myself as well, and everything's going to move forward. Whereas if you come at things from that scarcity mindset of, you know, uh, if they do better, then I have to do worse. Um, it's exactly what we don't want to happen, then they're never going to reach their potential. You're going to be so focused on keeping them back that you're never going to reach your potential, and um, you've got two people moving backwards instead of forwards.
It's not really teammates then. They're more adversaries, even on the same team. So it makes it tough. It takes a real strong leader, the coach or parent, to help navigate and guide those people. Put that whole scenario out there because for young athletes or even older ones, right, they're not sometimes not aware of it. So you got to put it in their face like that and say, "Hey, man, look at it like this because this is how it really is, and this is how it's going to be." And if you can subscribe to the rising tide raises all ships, right? Then you got a real strong foundation with your relationships, with your team itself, with your own progress. And it's really just an easier way to live because the stress is way down because you guys are still working together with the same goals, right?
Absolutely.
The I listen a lot to Tony Robbins, been to some of his events, and he points out, one of the hugest things where people can really make improvements is recognizing patterns. That's step one. And then in the process, can you stop patterns if they need to be stopped? And then can you change them in the other direction? So if you're unathletic and out of shape and fat and miserable and not eating right, because I've been there, can you recognize the patterns you're in, stop those patterns, and then go off in a different direction? And you coach people that are executives, you coach strength athletes, and you coach pros, but you also coach average Joes. Talk about the process of the mindset shift of them stopping some destructive patterns, hitting the brakes, turning things around, and then going off in the right direction with some new habits. Talk about that for a little bit.
I think the most effective thing you can do for people is get them to envision what success looks like.
Mm,
Because a lot of times people come to you with a goal, say, like, I want to lose 30 pounds, but they don't really have a clear visual of how that looks. So when I'm talking to a client, whether it's general population, professional athlete, executive, when they come to me with a goal, like, we really unpack that. We take some time. Like, I want to know about the drink they're holding on the beach. I want to know what temperature it is. And when people really get involved in that process, and there's emotion involved, then it flips that switch in the brain. You're going to see that buy-in. At that point, you say, all right, we've got a clear vision here. Now all we got to do is just draw the roadmap to get there.
he's
So then
he,
they're going to be more receptive to the plan that you give them. And then the key, I think, with the plan is whether it's coaching a squat or whether it's laying out a 12-year plan, don't give people too much to do at once.
sure.
Um, have them do one thing, and as soon as they show success with that, and always make sure it's something they're going to succeed at, set them up for success. Because as we accumulate wins,
Mm-hmm.
that mindset that we had that our whole life we failed at things, and this is just another time I'm going to a trainer and I'm going to come back home looking the same way I did. Now, it's like, I'm checking these boxes. I'm having little wins every day. I've got this clear vision of what success looks like, and I've got a clear plan to get there. Then the process is almost automatic. It takes care of itself. And there's always going to be setbacks. But the most important thing you can do as a coach is well, I guess a couple things. One, own up to it. If before you think about the failure that person had, think about what you could have done differently in that situation, because you're the expert. They're coming to you for advice. What could you have communicated differently? Did
Mm-hmm.
you set the right goal for them? Are you clear on the what needed to be done? In terms of them, um, it's kind of about making sure that they understand that no matter how perfect a plan is, there are going to be those times. But these times are really an opportunity. It's a opportunity for us to learn more about your physiology, so that you can continue to move forward, become more efficient, and then in the future, instead of having this big speed bump, we got a little hiccup that we know how to navigate. That it's a journey we'll always be on, but we'll have more successes and missteps. And when we do have those missteps, we just consider ourselves grateful for the opportunity to learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think tracking too, setting quantifiable goals. Like I'm a big believer in the in body. I think even more so than like blood labs and stuff, the in body is going to give you some really good data. I mean, plain and simple, if somebody's losing body fat and gaining muscle without looking at their labs, you can be pretty well assured that they're moving in a healthy direction. Not to say there's no value to labs, but when we do labs, that's just literally a photograph of that moment in time and
Yep.
what's happening with our chemistry. And so many things can throw those off. But if we're consistently every 4 weeks measuring body fat and we're trending in the right direction, even if we have a few bad days, it's safe to say that we're moving towards that goal that we talked about.
Yeah. Yep. Uh, mm, you're right about diving into their goal and plan, and with their emotions. Like people can sit there and just say, well, I think this, I want to have this goal. I want to be able to get, 10 pull-ups. I want a 2 times body weight squat, whatever, lose 10% body fat. But when we start saying, how does that feel? Right? It dials into that other part of your body and your brain. So it's kind of rooted a little bit better. But once that happens, laying out the next steps, the plan, the part that we do, that is so easy. That is so
Oh
easy
yeah.
once you have that buy-in and that clarity on what the person wants and needs. So if they have that, what they really want and need, and they know why, and it's part of them, the plan is so easy. And I pointed out that this is our best educated guess, and it's still just a guess. Sets and reps, amount, load, etc., volume, intensity. The little hiccups or the feedback, the quantifiable numbers that come back, that's where the value is. Where the plan really has value is that it's adjustable based
Hmm.
based on their feedback emotionally, mentally, and then physically. So that if you're quantifying things and you get the information back, well, I'm sitting there and just making little adjustments. Again, super easy. I get more data, I make another call. I get more data, I make another call. They stand up with 400 pounds on their back super fast. The call's pretty easy to put 450 on there, right? They're if
Hmm.
they if they're barely getting out of the hole and coming back up and finishing the squat, they're done. So I got data there. You make a call, and that's all we keep doing is bobbing and weaving. But you keep pushing forward, and then next thing you know, we're there, right? Super easy. Just be patient and embrace that process and be humble about it. And the successes, man, it's super easy. Just keep it at it. I love how the perseverance and the compound interest effect that you point out really is just the big key to winning, and it's really nothing more complicated than that.
Yeah, it's beautiful in its simplicity and works every time.
Sure does, as long as people just keep at it. What's next on the horizon for you? Are you going to the Arnold? You got speaking engagements this year? What's going on with Anthony?
So the Arnold I won't be attending this year. I'll be down in Miami with at the conference at Lexi. I'll be speaking at the Calm event,
Okay.
clinical application of longevity medicine. Um, as a part of the SSRP, I'll be attending the mastermind on mitochondria in Nashville, Tennessee, and then they do it's called a grand rounds after that, which is really cool. You got a room of 9 doctors and one strength coach, and everybody's presenting case studies, and I'm proud to say I'm the dumbest one in the room. But such a great opportunity to learn from them. And really, it's if you're a strength coach, I encourage you to check this out because there is muscles are currency of aging,
Mm-hmm.
and as I learned in December at the exercise metabolism mastermind, all these peptides that we spend money on and research and everything, you can do. You can, I mean, dare I say, you can cure cancer with exercise, and it really comes down to, and it's a whole nother conversation. Managing redox, balancing AMPK and mTOR. I will be speaking at the Peptide World Congress this year, which is in Las Vegas at the Wynn, June 12th through 14th.
Mm.
And that is going to be an amazing event. This is the first year we're going to have a strength training feed over there. So there's going to be some really incredible strength coaches. And we'll have a panel with Dr. Seeds, myself, and the other strength coaches that'll be presenting. And there'll be two other streams of people going through all the newest stuff about peptides, longevity, cellular medicine, and the really incredible thing about it is that we're going to be bridging that gap that's there between like the strength training world and the medical community, because both of those are so intertwined and so dependent on each other. And when you have a group of professionals really committed to better outcomes for patients and better outcomes for athletes, it's really an opportunity to do something amazing, and grateful to be a part of it.
Perfect. Perfect. We should talk more off afterwards about the Athlete Builder Summit and having you speak and things like that. When you're
Love to.
when you're when you're training, when you're lifting with yourself? What do you listen to?
Oh man, my fiance absolutely hates it, but I love old school rap. I mean, like Wu-Tang Clan, Biggie, that kind of thing.
All right.
And um, sometimes if I'm having one of those days where, like, I just want to zone out, I have like electronic music in the background where there's not really much in the way of words, but just kind of like a beat, so I can really kind of zero in on the movement I'm doing. But I'll be the first to tell you, like, if I play my music in the car and you or any of my friends are riding with me, they're like, "What is wrong with you?"
Mm, that's awesome. Bucket list adventure. You haven't done it yet, but you want to.
Oh man, I'd love to go to Greece someday. I think that would be incredible. And yeah, that's probably my biggest adventure that I want to go on.
Awesome. Favorite sports movie?
Ooh, favorite sports movie? Man, there's so many good ones. And I probably pick a different one every day you ask me.
Or top two, three, four?
um, Rudy's really good. Really enjoy that one. Just the perseverance of them.
Yep.
Um, Rocky got me excited about lifting weights. I mean,
Sure.
eh, easier to say what sports movies don't I like.
Yep. If you listen to anything that Zach Evanish puts out, he mentions Rocky all the time and Sylvester Stallone. So,
Yeah.
ab- uh, you know, everyone loves the underdog who comes back and whoops ass.
Oh yeah.
What's your favorite sport to watch?
Baseball, hands down. I know bores most people to tears, but Yankees fan my whole life and love watching baseball. I watch every game of the season.
Mm. And then favorite athlete to watch?
Um, Currently, probably Aaron Judge,
Because he's a Yankee, right?
Yankee, yeah,
Right.
and um, all-time favorite athlete was Derek Jeter, and Michael Jordan. Love
Sure.
Michael Jordan.
Did you watch the Captain series?
Yes,
Yeah.
loved it.
And then The Last Dance also.
Yeah,
Yeah, both awesome. Uh, any favorite books?
Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday.
Ryan Holiday. Yep. I have a few.
Absolutely love that book. I
Few of
have read
his.
that book so many times. Probably, I mean, you're supposed to do a page a day, but I've read it cover to cover over 100 times.
Awesome. Uh, I need to clarify this better. Favorite superhero could be fiction or non-fiction. It could be a real life person in your life too. So, favorite superhero.
Um, well, favorite superhero overall, I would say the Hulk.
Okay.
Always been a Marvel guy. But if we're considering real people also, I really I've been blessed to have so many great mentors. I worked for Charles Poliquin for a while, and he was really somebody I admired, and Dr. Seeds as well, and of course Chad. So any of those three guys would be a superhero to me, and blessed to have had the chance to learn from them.
Did you see the Red Hulk is coming out this summer with
Oh
Captain
man, did
America?
I? I think that's this month.
Is
I'm
that
pretty
right?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
How about villain?
Thanos.
No kidding. All right, didn't take long.
He is badass.
I always liked. I like Thanos. I like Vader, Darth Vader.
Oh yeah, Darth Vader.
Hannibal Lecter.
Oh yeah.
Yep. How about your favorite lift?
Favorite lift, squat. Um, got the right leverages for it. I was blessed with short parents.
You have a good quote for us.
Good quote. I guess I kind of leaked it out earlier, but life doesn't happen to us; it happens for us.
It does. If you can change those two words around, why is this happening for me? It puts you back in control. And then you have some power emotionally and you can make some decisions and move forward versus being that in that victim mindset. Why is this happening to me? So that's a huge one. I love changing that word around. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Anthony, where can people find you if they want to work with you, have you consult, have you speak, have you coach or mentor them? Where can they find you?
With the SSRP, Seed Scientific Research and Performance,
Mm-hmm.
um, and my Instagram page, it's just a little at Anthony Castore. Um, I'm not tech savvy enough to really have a functioning web page, so I have a web page, but it's really just kind of a landing page. So if you guys are interested in working with me, Instagram's great. You can just message me on there, and I'm really responsive. Always happy to help people, and it's really interesting. And you probably find the same thing. I think we learn as much from the people that we help
Mm.
as we share with them. So everybody that I get to work with is really an awesome opportunity to help somebody and learn something at the same time.
It makes it a lot easier, especially when it gets a little frustrating. That, if you look at it, how can I learn something here? It makes it a lot easier. And you're absolutely right. The people I met on this show or in the gym or outside or the relationships, those folks that have helped me improve in some way, uh, it's been I've been able to use it tenfold and then pass on to someone else. So I'm really grateful. And along those lines, it was excellent having you on today because I definitely learned some things and there's actionable things I can do with people. So really appreciate having you on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on here and really enjoyed our conversation.
Awesome. For those that are playing along at home, the book is out and the planner that goes along with it. So we talked about quantifying and tracking your habits and improving things. The planner that comes out should be out any day now if it isn't already. So by the time you hear this, it could already be out there. Again, shout out to our Jocko Fuel. And if you want to get a hold of us, info at athlete-builder.com. Anthony, again, great having you on, man. And I'm sure our paths will cross down the road.
I'll look forward to it. Thanks again.
All right, we'll see you.
Yep.